Hi, my name is Kees, and in this video I'll share the different enlightenment levels based on a lot of research done by the Center for the Study of Non-Symbolic Consciousness. Enlightenment, as we know it, has different levels. Other words for enlightenment could be satori, samadhi, peace beyond understanding, and it has a lot of different names. And in this video I'll go through some of the stages, the 4 main stages which people can go through. There are a lot of stages beyond that, which I'll also tell you about. So these are the different stages of enlightenment. So this is a really important video because I'll tell you a little bit about the research that Dr. Jeffery Martin and the people at the Center for the Study of Non-Symbolic Consciousness, their name for enlightenment is persistent non-symbolic experience. So that's why it's the Center for the Study of Non-Symbolic Consciousness, because they try to figure out a term that all these different religions and traditions could wrap their heads around together, and it could be united. But I like the term enlightenment. It is still the term that's most well known. In the scientific research where they studied more than 12,000 people who had a form of these levels of enlightenment, they've talked to different religious leaders, they talked to different people that basically claim to be in the spectrum of enlightenment or persistent non-symbolic experience, as they call it. So let's talk about these different levels, and they talk about locations. Location 1 is the first location, which I would refer to as spiritual awakening. It's actually a level in which you already go through a big shift, because from zero, from not having a persistent non-symbolic experience, as they would call it, to 1, having a persistent non-symbolic experience, is a big difference. And that happens in spiritual awakening, traditional spiritual awakening, where you awake to the fact that life is already okay, that life is peaceful, that life is not something you need to struggle with, but it's something to embrace. It's a beautiful experience. And why their name for this full spectrum is called fundamental well-being publicly is because you sense that whatever is happening in your life, if you look deep down in your experience, even from this level 1 of spiritual awakening, you see that it's fundamentally okay. That life is happening for you, you could say. That you're being guided, you're being carried. And that's a felt experience from level 1, from spiritual awakening. And in this level you can have these deconditioning cycles, as they say it. Or basically, as I've called it in my videos, you can have this letting go of limiting beliefs. You know, the conditioning basically comes up and you feel that you're conditioned in a way. And you try to deal with that by letting that go. So that's a very important thing which starts to happen to people in this level 1. And location 2 is where you could say that enlightenment, traditional enlightenment starts, or non-duality starts. Because in level 2 you have the feeling that there is no longer somebody looking from inside the body to outside the body. There's no looker or seer, but things just automatically arise. In level 1, you still felt that there was a self, that there was somebody looking behind the eyes. And that drops away from location 1 to location 2. And that's a very big change. And within location 2, what starts to happen is your fundamental well-being, your fundamental okayness is higher than with level 1. And you feel more okay more of the time, and emotions affect you less, and you feel you start to have limited negative emotions. Next to that, you don't feel that you have a sense of self. You feel that things are just spontaneously arising. In level 3, what drops away from level 2 to level 3 is the spectrum of emotions. People keep this one positive emotion, which is the centerpiece of level 3, and that is that you have love, appreciation, joy, compassion, and it can have different facets of the same emotion. You feel that you're just pervaded with this love. And it feels a little bit more dual because you realize that you are not per se this love, but this love is just flowing. And it's just being, you could say. And then with level 4, or location 4, as they call it, you lose all these emotions. And your fundamental well-being becomes even higher, but it's flat because there are no emotions left. You just feel a little bit outside of the world. You feel that everything is just okay fundamentally happening, and you feel no sense of agency. The sense of agency, by the way, also goes down in these different levels. But with 4, you feel no sense of agency. You feel no emotions. You just feel this fundamental okayness that's very thick. A peace, a love, you could say that's very thick. But also that doesn't feel like an emotion. It feels like an inherent state, but not like the high you could have on the one positive emotion in level 3. It feels a little bit more flat. And after location 4, there are locations 5 to 9 in the research of the Center for the Study of Non-Symbolic Consciousness. You can check this out, by the way, yourself. I'll link it below, but the website is nonsymbolic.org. And you can click for finders, and then you find all the information about these different levels or locations. And these levels are really important because they have been really well researched. But after level 5 and 9, this sort of peace and this flatness starts to become more dominant, but also you feel that your nervous system, because these levels have a lot to do with how the nervous system operates, you feel that the nervous system itself starts to act in a different way, where also maybe some medical problems or some functioning problems start to happen. So it can be dangerous for some people. One of the things which I find really interesting is that Dr. Jeffery Martin is talking about that spirituality, and in spirituality we are always talking about putting the pedal to the metal, going as hard as you can, as deep as you can into this fundamental well-being or into enlightenment. And he's saying these are locations or levels which all have their own particular characteristics, one not better than the other. In the lower levels, it's better to, let's say, function in the world. In the later levels, it's easier to rest in peace, to really enjoy this oneness or this peacefulness with everything in a really deep way, but you're compromising your functioning in the world. While in these lower levels, your functioning in the world is not compromised at all, but you feel this fundamental well-being that is next to your functioning in the world, that is next to maybe your emotions. I had my transition to level 2, from level 1 to level 2 in June this year. And I had my transition to level 1 about 7 years ago. It's an amazing ride. I've also seen that through understanding this, that I want to do more in the world, so I don't want to go too deep off into the spectrum, because I have some things I'd like to work on or do in the world, and I have a family that I want to take care of. But it's such an amazing thing, and that's why I wanted to share it with you, because it explains about different religions, different traditions, different teachers being at different locations or levels of enlightenment. Because enlightenment is often talked about as a black and white thing. I would say enlightenment is actually going from level 1 to level 2, because enlightenment traditionally is about losing the sense of self, which you lose in your transition from 1 to 2. So I would say traditionally that is called enlightenment. But you feel a loss of self if you transition to level 1 already. You feel a loss of self-referential thoughts. You also feel that this peace is starting to thicken in you. It's a fluid process actually. You have, of course, transition moments where you go from 1 to 2 or 2 to 3, etc. But these don't have to feel like really hard moments where it's clear that you've now changed. Of course, sometimes you can start to notice this difference, and I definitely noticed a big difference from 1 to 2. But then it becomes your new normal, right? And reality is still the same, but you and your internal experience have changed. I like the fact that there's been, or I think it's amazing actually, that there has been thorough research by Dr. Jeffery Martin and his teams around the world. I also love the fact that you have these different teachers. For example, I've been following John de Ruiter for a while. I really love him. I've been to a retreat of his, and I think he's like far off in the spectrum. But other teachers, for example, let's say Mooji or Rupert Spira, I think they're a little bit earlier in the spectrum, where you obviously feel that they're still very functional in the world. They're doing a lot. For example, Satguru is a very famous teacher. You know, he's obviously, to me, in a sort of level 2 where he's still like super functional in the world and doing lots and lots of things, and also is getting sometimes these negative emotions. You see him sometimes getting a little bit angry or a little bit frustrated. That's very okay. I mean, it's not like he's not enlightened or something like that. No, that's not what it's about. I think he is, but in a way where this negative emotion is still there. So that's a level 2, for example, or location 2. So as a spiritual person, it's interesting to start to understand how this spectrum works, where you may be at in the spectrum. It's also interesting, by the way, to mention that they've talked about several layers within the levels or locations. So your experience may be shifting from these different layers within this location. And not everybody has the ability to go to fundamental well-being or to these levels of enlightenment, but they've managed to transition a lot of people with traditional techniques. Most of it, for example, some exercises in contemplation combined with a deep meditation practice for an hour plus a day for, let's say, a couple of weeks. But the most interesting thing for me was this sort of universal theory which they're now able to build based on data. Thanks for watching, and if you want more of these type of videos, please subscribe. If you want to learn more about these locations, or as I've called it, levels of enlightenment, I would say go to nonsymbolic.org or research Dr. Jeffery Martin. I'll link the info below. Again, if you like this video, subscribe and put a thumbs up or a comment for the algorithm, because it really helps me, and I saw that a lot of people that watch my videos are not subscribed yet. I feel so happy to be making these videos for you. Much love and have a great day. Hi, I hope you liked the video. If you have any questions, we're organizing a free webinar. Check out the link in the comments for the free webinar, and I hope to see you there. Bye.